Hey everyone, this is Not Forgotten podcast slash YouTube show. Welcome back if you've seen us before. This is actually part two of this case that we're looking at. This is the disappearance of John and Jean Block. Just a really quick little synopsis. John and Jean Block hopped in their 1970 or 1969 white and green single engine Cessna 150J and took off from Macomb, and we're going to go up north. They never made it. As far as everyone knows, or as far as we're aware, the plane is somewhere in the lower peninsula of Michigan, and nobody has found it. And we don't think enough people are talking about it, so that's why we're doing this. That plane that you see on the screen right now is the actual plane. There's the wing or the number for the plane. If it was ever found, you could use that to match it up. There's some phone numbers on there, a phone number on there for people to reach if you do end up finding it. And at the end of the video, we're going to ask for your help. So stay tuned to the end. I'm Tyler, and that's Jeff. Jeff, how's it going?
Hey, Tyler, going pretty good. Glad to be here with you again.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so we're going to get into it now. If you haven't seen our first video, I am going to put the link down into the description. I'm going to put a lot of links down into the description on this video, but I'm going to put the one down for our first video. So go back and watch that because we give a much more introduction to the case and we ask a lot of questions in that I think some of those are going to get answered in this video. We're getting information really quick, and we put our toe in this case, and now it almost feels like we're going in head first because we got a lot of lines in the water. We got a lot of people we're talking to. I think we can go ahead and mention the first guy, right?
Yeah, let's go ahead and mention Patrick there. Go ahead and
yeah,
Patrick is go ahead.
Okay, yeah, this gentleman reached out to us via email after he's seen our video. His name is Patrick. I don't know if he wants me to say his last name or not, but whatever. His name is Patrick. He will probably do a video with us eventually, so he will introduce himself more formally. But just so you guys know, his name is Patrick. He's a commercial pilot. He's out of Grand Rapids. I think he's also a flight instructor as well. Guy knows a lot about aviation. He knows a lot about it. He's been flying for a long time, so he answered a lot of questions that we had. Because a lot of this case, to really get into it, there's a lot of aviation things that can come up for questions. And he answered a lot of them. He answered a lot of other questions that were in regards to a lot of stuff. And a lot of information we're going to go over today, a lot of it is from him. So again, we'll probably get him on a video soon. I'll throw it out there too that we are communicating with other people in the family. Eventually, that might turn into some content or something, we don't know. But the main idea of these videos is to get them out. Get them in front of the eyes of people in Michigan and surrounding areas and try to find this airplane. So with that being said, you want to go ahead and maybe get into it a little bit here?
Yeah, let's start looking at some of this stuff here. What do you feel like starting at today? There's so much to cover. I don't even know where to start right now.
I think real quick, just for people who might be just viewing, I just want to go to the map for one quick second. So people understand, he started in the area of Macomb, Michigan, down by Detroit. The airport that he flew from was no longer there. And actually, Patrick told us what the airport name was, and I don't remember off the top of my head. But Macomb is in this area. And then a lot of people, or the general consensus as of now is that he may have flew to Lansing based on a possible sighting. Then from Lansing flew up here to the Mayo area. Now we have reason to believe, based on just our research and some different things we've gotten, that it's likely he may have not flown to Lansing, and that's more of a theory at this point. It's not absolute. He very well could have flew to Lansing, but at this point, I think if I'm correct, we're kind of on the same page that he may have not flown to Lansing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say so.
He wasn't instrument rated, and for people who don't know what that means, he didn't have certain instruments in the plane that he could use to navigate. All he had was his eyes and a map. So he would look out the window, try to follow the roads. The main road he would like to follow on this trip would have been I-75. So if he would have went to Lansing first, the story is to get gas. It just wouldn't have made sense looking at it on its face.
Yeah, that's almost like our first gut instinct too, is like when we first started looking at this case, the very beginning, we were thinking, why would he go to Lansing if he left on a full tank, which we'll go into later? Why would he go to Lansing and then to where his destination is when he probably, more than likely, it's all just we're just guessing right now, but more than likely he would have left on a full tank of gas, right?
Yeah.
Or close to, maybe.
Right. And even if he didn't, if you were going to stop at and get gas, there's airports all along 75. There's no reason to go out of your way to Lansing. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at with that. One thing I wanted to kind of bring up first, Jeff, is when we had our first video, we were kind of talking a little bit about John Block, the gentleman who went missing. We're talking about his flight experience, and a lot of articles go into that, saying he's had, you know, over 30 years of flight experience. But from different things we've learned throughout the last few days and the week here is he did have a long time of flight experience, but he didn't necessarily have a lot of hours. Kind of like me saying, like, if I told you I was playing tennis for 30 years, you would think I was the best tennis player in the world. But if I told you I only play tennis 1 hour a month, you'd think differently. So
exactly, yeah.
He did have some hours. Actually, and real quick, I'll just bring up this picture here that I have of actually an article. Now I got this off of there's a Facebook group related to this case, and I'll try to put that link down in the description as well. Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't this one, it was the one up here. So I'll show you this real quick, just because I thought it was interesting as far as this. So it says he had learned his pilot license in 1947 after serving in World War II. He didn't have an extraordinary amount of flight time, maybe 470 hours, and it says about 200 to 300 after 1970. So we got, you know, 170 of it and within 7 years. That sounds like a lot of hours, but for a pilot, from what we were talking to Patrick about, these guys are flying a lot. You have to fly so much to even stay legally current, and most of them will do even more than that, just to not only be legally current, but be like morally current and just make sure they know what's going on. So he may have not been quite as experienced as we think. Not to say he didn't know what he was doing at all, but, you know, take that for what it is. That he was probably more in that intermediate level than I would say advanced or expert. Right?
I would say so, yeah, for sure.
So, and then I'll get to one more point, and then I'll let you jump in if you want to jump in on something. But the other thing I wanted to quickly bring up too was just his health, because we were talking a lot in the first video, a little bit about his health, because people think he must have crash landed. There has to be reasons for a crash landing or an emergency landing that would turn into a crash landing. There's got to be a reason. One of the reasons that's come up is a medical emergency. So initially we thought, man, that might be rare, because what are the chances? You know, what are the chances that if there's all his years of life, now he has a medical emergency? And I think we still think that a little bit, but just to kind of dive into that a little bit.
One thing I want to bring up while you're looking at that real fast.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
The plane that they had was fairly new. It didn't have very many hours on it. So which makes me believe that it's not impossible, I guess, but the malfunction of the plane would be a little bit lower than something that's been flying around since, you know, way earlier than this plane. This plane was a 68, you said?
69.
69. I guess. Oh, another thing that we learned too, the plane was co-owned with somebody else. I don't know if that's gonna come into play with anything. We talked about a few things about fuel. Maybe he didn't want to fill it up all the way because he didn't want to waste all the money on gas. That when he landed the plane, the other guy would take the plane and use up all the fuel that he maybe put in on a full tank. I would generally think, being how it's from the 70s, they're flying in a plane. And John Block was an older guy. You know how older people are with their gas in their cars.
Right.
I would just tend to imagine that if he was getting in the plane, he would probably make sure I would think that it's full of gas, but I could be completely wrong. It's just speculation. So throwing that out there.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something gas is a thing that we still need to know more about. And when we get deeper into the case, hopefully talking to some people related to the case, we're going to try to see if they would know more information on that. But here's what I was looking for on the medical side of things. Right here, this highlighted one, just so you guys can see it. It says, now this is John Jr. So this is John Block's, who went missing, his son speaking. So he said, this kind of goes into what you were saying too. It's a pretty reliable plane with not many hours on it. John said, my dad suffered from diabetes and high blood pressure. I was really surprised he passed his last couple of annual physicals. So pilots have to get physicals along with their hours they have to do. In the 70s, you know, things could have been a little loosey goosey, and maybe, I think we also learned that the guy who did his physicals might also been one of his friends. So he might have said, hey man, I know this eye, you know, whatever. I know that my heart, whatever, just pass me. I'm cool. You know, yeah, I know you're good. Yeah. Okay. So that's just one thing to keep in mind when it comes to he wasn't, I guess, to bring a cap on it, he wasn't necessarily the most healthiest person at this time. He was in his 50s, so generally he's getting older. So it's not that maybe he didn't take care of himself. He just is getting older. And we learned that he smoked quite a bit as well, too, right? Pretty heavy smoker.
I heard, it was Camel non-filters.
Yep. So pretty heavy smoker. So
and not in the greatest health, but not in the worst either.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, let's take that for what it's worth.
We kind of got the sense talking to Patrick and just different things we learned. Now, Patrick has actually been in communication with the family. So a lot of information that we kind of got was from the family through him in a way as well. But we kind of think that, you know, John Block Sr., now we need to talk to the family to confirm our theories, but he kind of seems like a little bit of a cowboy in a way to us. Not a cowboy where he gets on a horse and goes ropes, bulls, but a cowboy as in he was just gung-ho to do it, and maybe some of the rules or some of the whatever, he's like, yeah, you know, good to go, let's do it. You know, he was just a get-her-done kind of guy, and if he seen something that was slowing him down, he just got it out of the way and went and did it. So, you know, I don't know. So anyway, what do you want? You want to move into the weather a little bit, or what?
We can, and you brought up quite a bit of good things today on that weather.
Yeah, I can bring up.
What you got for the pages on that?
Yeah, I can bring up that this here. So a lot of these articles say that the weather in the morning was good. It was sunny. It was a pretty typical nice day in Michigan. But towards the end of the day, the weather started getting pretty bad. And we thought that just meant some storms or something like that. But I found this image on Google Images, just typing in the date is all I did, and this came up. But this is a type of storm called now forgive my pronunciation, it looks like Draco. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but this is a type of storm that came in through this area that you're looking at here on the map, this area here. It's primarily a really bad windstorm, but it does carry rain and things like that with it, like a normal storm. But you'll notice its intensity was really intense here. You can see 100-mile-an-hour winds, 157 miles an hour, 115 mile an hour. I mean, you're flying a small plane in the air. That's got to do something, I would imagine.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. And then once you get into Michigan, you can see it start slowing down to 60, 70, which is still pretty intense wind. So when it says this came in around 8 o'clock. Now, he left that airport supposedly around 11. And we got to confirm that, because if that time was off even just a little bit, he could have maybe not got caught in the storm itself, but maybe the pre kind of crappiness that comes before a storm comes. You know
what I'd like to do too, Tyler, is this
and just real quick before you get going, sorry,
reports as we're going. Keep going.
There was a lot of other things we talked about with Patrick on the weather. He's an aviation guy, so he was looking at weather stuff that we didn't have access to, and he's actually going to look more into the weather too to get more. But basically, the general consensus is it was pretty nice during the morning and the majority of the day, and then once it got later in the day, like that 6, 7, 8 o'clock, it was starting to get bad, and then it got really bad at night. So, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I was just looking at this. This I don't know what you call it, Derecho or Derecho.
I don't know.
Line of thunderstorms begins forming around 10 a.m. This looks like it's over by Wisconsin there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in that area.
Okay. It starts forming there up to 1 p.m. And I'm guessing this line, let me make sure I can.
Oh, here. Yeah, go ahead.
Share full screen, remote control.
Okay, go ahead.
So, and can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. Up to 1 p.m. Winds up to 100 miles an hour, knock down thousands of trees, damaging buildings and vehicles in Minnesota. Man, that's just. And then as you come farther, 255 winds destroyed 30 homes in the Phillips, Wisconsin.
Yeah, that red line there by your cursor, that's where it's most intense.
Okay. So as we're looking at this, 3:30. The airport records, not the airport that he was going to, but what's that? Rylander.
Right.
115 mile an hour gust. Now, is that almost like hurricane winds or something? I mean, I've never even heard of this kind of a storm. Have you?
Yeah, for this storm to be given this name, the winds have to be over a certain mile per hour. I don't know what that is, but they have to be over a certain mile per hour. And also, too, while you're looking at this, I just kind of noticed something else. You see where it says 2:55 p.m., then it goes to 3:30?
Yeah.
So that's what, 35 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to grab the cursor for a minute. So you see this distance here. So you could go here and say 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6.
I can't see the mouse.
Okay. Well, basically,
you might have to click on the screen first.
That's right. Basically, what I'm saying is over the water right here.
Oh, there we go.
So over the water is what I'm saying is not, it might have hit land at 8 o'clock, but you're talking 6:30, 6:30, 7 o'clock. It could have really been getting bad over the water, which would have, and I think the wind from the storm would have started getting felt in the state, and maybe it wouldn't have been up to the 60 or 70 mile an hour.
Right, but you started feeling some kind of a draft happening or something.
Right, which
you can tell around here, like when storms are brewing, you can definitely tell in Michigan.
Right, which kind of brings us to the next thing we wanted to talk about, and is haze. Do you want to kind of get into that?
Yeah, we were talking to Patrick, and just because. And apparently there's two different kinds of things that would limit the visibility, especially in a plane. And now that he mentioned that, we talked to him about it, I can think of a couple instances where, because I work outside all day long, where you could have fog before or after a storm, but you could also have haze when it's so hot that it looks foggy, and you can look off in the distance, when you're driving on the highway or anything like that, and it's almost just as bad.
Yeah.
And that's on the ground when I'm driving. Patrick when we were talking to him, he made it sound like haze could be almost incapacitating when you're in the air. Like you could see zero ground, anything like that. With 95 degrees outside, July 4th, 1977, we got a storm brewing off to the west there. And there was thunderstorms and tornadoes actually in the state, and I don't know if it has anything to do with this storm that's coming in here. It probably does.
Probably.
But there was funnels and everything that touched the ground around here.
Yeah.
And you got this must have been some kind of a major cold front moving through. It's 95 degrees outside. This thing is crashing into the 95-degree air. Who knows what it's going to do? I mean, it could be hazier than heck, just like he was saying. So
and what haze is, guys, in case you don't know, I mean, you might, but if you don't, haze is basically fog, like you'd see on the ground, but in the sky. So just because it's not foggy where we're on the ground, doesn't mean it's not foggy up in the sky. So and why that's important is this pilot. Remember, he was not instrument rated. He used roads to navigate. If he can't see the roads, he can't navigate. And what you need to keep in mind is when you're in a heavy haze, your sense of up, down, left, and right, it just completely, it leaves you. If you ever driven through a really bad snowstorm, if you're from Michigan, you have. If you've driven in a really bad snowstorm where it was a complete whiteout, you know what you do? You just veer and you wait for the rumble, then you get back, and then you get back, because you can't see where you're going and you can't feel where you're going.
Especially when the snow's covering the white lines and all the yellow lines and.
Right, and you can't see anything. It's just white. It's like you're driving into just a white, like you're going to heaven.
Right.
And you can't see anything. That's him in a plane, but he doesn't even have the road. He can't even feel the road to know he's going straight or even moving. He's just floating in there in nothingness. So what can happen is these guys with instruments who are instrument rated, they have things in the plane to keep them good in that situation, to keep them going where they're supposed to be going. Guys who are not, like John Block Sr. would have been, they really don't. They have their eyes, and once you can't use your eyes, you have nothing. You basically are just winging it, no pun intended. So basically, if he can't see where he can't see the ground, he's in a bad situation. So what can happen if you don't have these instruments? You're just looking at all your other gauges and whatnot, and that plane can start to kind of go down, or it can start to veer or do whatever. And if that haze is low enough to the ground, you won't catch it until it's too late. Because what happens with pilots in haze, who are this type of pilot, who have to use the roads and everything, is they try to go under the haze. So if there's haze up here and they're flying through it, they'll try to go under it. And as they go, if they go into worse weather and the haze gets lower, they fly lower into it. And they basically keep trying to get under the haze until there's nowhere more to go, and there's the ground. So we don't know if that happened in this situation because, again, we don't know the weather as good as we want to, and we're going to learn more. But it's something that we're thinking about.
Yeah, and the more we look into this case, the more answers we're getting, which is bringing up more scenarios on this case. You want to show them where do you want to go? You want to go to the fog video or the one that Patrick shared to us about the communications with the airport and they lost signal and all that stuff? Or
I don't think I want to show them that one just because it's so long, but I think I do want to show them just a short one that kind of shows how a pilot can get lost in the haze. Okay. Now, again, if you've seen our videos before, we record on Zoom, so some of these YouTube videos can get a little laggy. Your sound will be fine, but your picture might lag a little bit. So I apologize. It's called 178 Seconds to Live. If you want, it's only 2 minutes long if you wanted to watch it on your own, but I'm going to go ahead and play it.
The sky is overcast.
Can you hear it okay?
The visibility.
I can hear it great.
Okay.
That reported 5-mile visibility looks more like 2, and you can't judge the height of the overcast. Your altimeter says you're at 1,500 feet, but your chart tells you there's terrain in the area as high as 1,200 feet. Still, you've flown through weather like this before, so you press on. You find yourself easing back slightly on the controls to give yourself more clearance. Then, with no warning, you're in the soup. You peer so hard into the mist that your eyes hurt. You swallow, only to find your mouth dry. Somewhere a voice is saying, you should have turned back. You now have 178 seconds to live. You push the rudder and add a little pressure on the controls to stop the turn. But this feels unnatural, and you return the controls to their original position. This feels better, but now your compass is turning a little faster, and your airspeed is increasing. You scan the panel for help, but you don't find any. It doesn't make any sense. You're sure you'll break out in a few minutes, but you don't have a few minutes. You now have 100 seconds to live. You glance at your altimeter and are shocked to see it unwinding. You're already down to 1,200 feet. Instinctively, you pull back on the controls, but the altimeter still unwinds. The tack is in the red, and the airspeed's almost there too. You now have 45 seconds to live. Now you're sweating and shaking. There must be something wrong with the controls. Pulling back only moves the airspeed deeper into the red. You can hear the wind tearing at the airplane. You have 10 seconds to live. You see the ground. The trees rush up at you. You can see the horizon if you turn your head far enough, but it's at a strange angle. You open your mouth to scream.
Add some fizz to your fun.
So there you go. It kind of shows how a pilot can get discombobulated and confused in the haze and not know it until it's too late. That was obviously very cinematic and you know,
right,
whatever, but it gives an idea of how that could have happened. So
and I'd like to bring up one thing too is when we were talking to Patrick about these planes, some of it we were talking about maybe a health condition or health issue when he was in the air, which very still could be a possibility. But I remember asking Patrick about say like somebody was in the air was going to have a stroke or heart attack or something like that, and I was wondering if they tensed up real quick and pushed down on the controls or pulled up on the controls or turned them really hard whenever what was happening, would that plane stay in that position and go all the way down? And he actually informed us that once that happened, if they were to let go of the controls completely, the plane would start to even itself back out while it's in the air. I don't know that
kind of like power steering, just self-correct itself. Yeah.
Now, it would take a little bit to do it, but the plane would almost correct itself. So
would it correct itself just with the tilt or with the altitude? Did you really?
Sure.
Not yeah, I'm not sure either. He might have meant with the altitude or with the tilt, but I don't know. But yeah, that's definitely interesting for sure. Do you want to look at that other plane and just the similarities on that other plane?
Yeah, let's take a gander at that real quick.
Because I got this up here. So not to confuse anybody, this is a separate case, and this is a plane that went down that was found. So this plane went down in 1997. Sorry, go ahead. But it was found in 2018. And actually, and the similarities to it are the pilot, they don't know 100%. Obviously, they can't ask him, but they're assuming that he got lost in fog because it was a foggy day. And this
That's what they
pilot,
said, yeah.
yes, and this pilot was not instrument rated, just like John Black Jr. wasn't, or John Black Sr.
The
wasn't
Capuchin
instrument
Soup
rated.
Kitchen needs your help. For
I don't know
more
what
than
this
90
video.
years,
I've never actually
inspired by
watched
the
this video,
example
so
of
I don't know
Saint
what this
Francis of
actually
Assisi,
says.
The
But
Capuchin Soup Kitchen has
Yeah, let me get rid of this ad real quick, and then I'll just show this quick video. It's not very long.
Have you seen
Be
it?
a friend to the Capuchin
Yes.
Soup
Oh, okay.
Kitchen.
I've watched about 3 or 4 videos on
All right,
this.
another top
I've never
story
seen it,
at
so-
5
Or this
o'clock. A
aircraft.
wreckage believed to be of a plane missing for nearly 21 years has been located in the UP.
The single-engine Piper Cherokee took off on September.
So do you guys see the similarities here with where now they were coming from the north going south, right?
They were coming from Drummond Island,
And going to Howell,
their destination was south. But
right?
being how this guy flew just like John Black would have flown. What is it? VFR? He's not VFR rated. Is that what they were?
He flew VFR because he wasn't instrument rated.
He flew VFR because he's not instrument rated. So the way these guys fly is they follow main highways and things like that. So he left from Drummond Island.
And would have hopped on 75 in the Lower Peninsula, right?
Or that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to get 75 from the UP. Drummond Island, guys, is like it's an island. There's a lot of people that travel there to go deer hunting. I'm not really sure what these guys are doing there. I didn't really research it that great, but I know they left from there. So what they did was they tried to go. Actually, if I remember right, they started going one direction and did a 360-degree turn and started heading back the other way. I'm not really sure where that was.
Might have hit heavy fog and said this ain't gonna work. And
yeah, I could look it up again, and we could go into this later. But anyway, they ended up west here towards the Hiawatha National Forest. Now these guys got this marked. I don't know where this news company is from. They might not even know the UP or Michigan that well. They got this marked pretty far west because the plane was actually found in St. Ignace, north of St. Ignace, just a tiny bit, and south of Castle Rock. Which, if you're from Michigan or you're not, Castle Rock's like a tourist destination. There's a big ridge there with a rock, like I guess like a makeshift kind of mountain with stairs. People pay, they can get up there and then do the viewpoint. Right. Anyway, so this mark right here is incorrect. St. Ignace is way farther east. It's pretty much just north of the Mackinac Bridge. Once you get to the Upper Peninsula, which would be St. Ignace, there's a big car show every year there. Just north of that would be Castle Rock. This is where this plane was found.
Yeah, and this plane was sitting in the woods for 21 years, so it's a good representation to show that a plane can be lost in the woods for a considerable amount of time, even in Michigan, even near a tourist area.
By Castle Rock, which is getting a ton of activity. The only reason they found this plane was because of land surveyors. Was when they were trying to survey the land. But I can see what he was kind of doing here. This is what John Black would have been doing. He's leaving Drummond Island. He's trying to find 75. Once he finds 75, he's going to take it all the way south.
Right.
And then,
are you gonna play more of that, or are you gonna?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do some more real quick.
Number 14,
See if it says anything else interesting.
1997, and was headed to Howell, but never got there.
St. Ignace is right here, guys.
Mark and Janet Davies crashed in the Hiawatha National Forest near St. Ignace. Rod Maloney live in Brighton. That's where Janet Davies worked as a teacher. But Rod, even if the wreckage has been found, there's still so many questions to be answered here.
So many questions, Devin, because how could this possibly have happened? How could nobody have found it? I mean, it was
all the same questions we have with our case with John Black.
Janet Davies was supposed to come here and teach at Scranton School. She was the art teacher here. She and her husband was a private pilot, very experienced private pilot. They disappeared into thin air.
Sound familiar?
Forest rangers in the Hiawatha National Park found the plane yesterday near the well-known Castle Rock.
There's Castle Rock, if anybody...
Jim Bailey, the airport manager of the Drummond Island Airport. He saw them get on that plane and leave just before 4 p.m. that fateful day.
It was a nice evening or afternoon, yeah. Here, it was foggy between here and...
Foggy.
Straits, apparently.
The Piper single-engine plane that looked
similar-sized plane as John Black
was supposed to land here at the Livingston County Airport, but never made it. Investigators tell us that the plane left and was supposed to head south, but instead went due west and disappeared from Canadian radar, which is where they found the plane. It surprised Bailey.
I assumed because it was seen over by close to the straits, I assumed that it went in the water because the fog usually in the straits is heavier than it is in the land.
Ted Sarek of Howell was the Davies' neighbor and close personal friend. He's stunned they found the plane, recalling of Mark, who was a good auto mechanic and pilot.
He just had a visual license. He
Just
may
like
not have
John
had
Black,
an instrument
just
license.
like John Black Sr.
And so he wanted to, you know, be able to see maybe I-75. And so he came over to St. Ignace to follow 75 down.
Sarek recalls what it was like in 1997 when the Davies went missing.
They sent teachers, they sent anyone that even knew her because they loved her.
So definitely some similarities for sure.
75 is the main road that connects the Lower Peninsula to the Upper Peninsula, and 75 will go from the UP over to the Mackinac Bridge, and then it just goes down south. So,
It's really the main highway on the east side of the state, really.
yeah.
Too.
Yep. So that just goes to show you what this guy was just saying, is that they were surprised that he went over there, that's where the plane was.
Right.
What this fog and haze can actually do to a plane when they're in the air and they get confused.
Good point.
So you can't, I mean, you can, but we want to be real careful when we start trying to pinpoint areas for this search that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a couple searches, but we have to keep an open mind, and we have to not get hard-headed about certain things, because this thing could be anywhere, and we have to really think about that. So this is just a good example of that.
Yeah,
So,
you got haze, strong wind. It could be anywhere, anywhere in the Lower Peninsula. And actually, as I'm going to get into when we're going to look at the gas and the range, he could actually be in the Upper Peninsula if he wanted to be. Chances are he's probably not, but he could be. So
very well could be.
Do you want to get into that right now, or
Let's
what?
do that. I feel like doing that. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to exit this since we don't need this anymore.
While he's bringing this up, I just want to say something about these maps that he's bringing up. Is we did some research about the type of plane that he was flying on a full tank of gas. We're not saying that it had a full tank of gas. It could have had half a tank.
Yeah, here it is right here, which I think is what you're getting into. So this is a article that talks about this case. A lot of these articles that we got are from Patrick, and a lot of them are from this Friends of the Black Family Facebook page. I'm going to try to put links in the description for that type of stuff so you guys can see that. But this is one of those articles, and it says, so they were just talking about something, It says, but with the 400-mile range of the Cessna 150 may have permitted him to reach the CERN, it said. So the important part of this is a 400-mile range. So that's on a full tank. Now, we're not 100% sure he left on a full tank, but we're just thinking he may have. So
real quick, too, is that it's important to remember that the blocks were going, I believe, from what we've heard, from pretty good resources, that they were going there for the night, right? It was one day. Right?
I think it was they were going to fly to Lucerne, stay there for a day, fly to Traverse City and stay there, and then fly back home. I don't know exactly how long, but they were basically doing a triangle.
So some of the things that would take into account a plane's range is, of course, the wind and stuff like that, but how they loaded the plane and how much they actually loaded the plane full of.
Right,
right. There's certain things, there's graphs that Patrick showed us. We even got some of those where you want to try to find the balance of the plane. I guess you don't want to have like too much in the front, too much in the back.
That it's like a teeter-totter.
Yeah, so the plane's going to struggle. So you want to try to get it balanced as much as you can, because that can also be a factor to fuel. But being how they weren't going there for very long, it's possible that they could have packed it full. I don't see why they would. I'm thinking they probably packed it for what they needed and hit the road. So.
Right.
So that I was just bringing that up because you're going in here to the 400 miles.
No, that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't thinking about bringing that up. So what I'm going to use here is Google Earth. Just for a warning, Jeff may lag a little bit when he's talking because this Google Earth just for some reason uses a lot of internet power. He may or may not lag a little bit, and then Jeff, my screen might lag a little bit too. But on my end, the screen won't lag. It's just his video might lag a little. So we're not going to be
doesn't lag in the actual upload, but
it shouldn't lag in the actual upload. So we're not going to be in here long anyway. So I'm going to bring up Google Earth here for a minute. And I already have this kind of made. So this is it's an estimate on if he could go the full 400 miles if he had a full tank of gas. So what I did, and I'm going to try to be quick in this because I don't want to screw up our internet connection too bad. This line here starts in Macomb. I don't, it's not exactly at the airport he left, so there'll be a little bit of leniency there. See, it says my connection is unstable, but he left from Macomb and then got on 75, and I followed 75, his route. This is West Branch, because this is where, let me put the roads, oh, they are on. This is where 75 veers. So that's just, I found just a good place to kind of stop. And then what I did, these two lines here, these two lines that I connected, they equal 93 and 43. So let me do the quick math on that. Well, yeah, let me just do the quick math on that. Just, I think I know it off the top of my head, but I don't know.
Can you
if I
zoom out a
hit
little
it.
bit on that?
I can, just give me 1 second. I'm just bringing up my calculator. So we got 43 plus 93. So that's 136 miles. That's what these two lines represent. These other lines branching off, these are each 256 miles apiece. Because if you take 256 plus 136, you come with 392, but basically 400 miles. So what I'm not trying to show where he's gone. These are not supposed to representing where he went in the plane. That's not what these are to represent. These are just to represent how much further in distance he could have traveled in the plane. So for example, he wouldn't fly over water. That was one thing that we learned. So he probably would have never crossed these, and he would have had no reason to go this far. Even if he was stuck in haze, he probably wouldn't have went this far. But for example, if you go out to say, here, like right here, you have this whole part of the line still where he could have still went zigzagged all. So we're trying to show this to say that 400 miles as the crow flies or as a plane flies is a lot more miles than you in a car, or is a lot further distance than 400 miles in a car where you're swerving through roads and everything else. 400 miles as a crow flies in a straight line or a semi relatively straight line is a long distance. So what we're trying to say is if he had a full tank, he could have flew around the state for a long time before he ran out, which makes me think that for his emergency landing, if he had a full tank, was probably not due to gas. He actually could have almost flew all the way to Mackinac City and damn near back without running out of gas. It would have been close. It would have been pushing it, but I'm saying he could have went a long ways without running out of gas. And even if he had a half a tank, basically what do we got? So if it was 200 miles, 136 plus, so that'd be another 64 miles. So basically we would just shorten all these, he could have still, cut
those in half.
Well, I don't think that would quite do it. We would have to remove 200 miles. So these would all have to be 56 miles instead of 256. So I guess I can do that really quick. I can just, I don't know if I can. I thought I could, but maybe I can't. Maybe I can. Yeah, I don't think I can once I kind of made them, but you guys could understand that these would be 200 miles less. It'd only be 64 miles if you had a half a tank or 3/4 tank. But what we really wanted to just represent is the scenario as if he had a full tank, how far the plane can really travel without running out. So, right.
All right, let's close that out because it's lagging me up.
Yeah, I'm going to close this out, and then hopefully he'll start coming back here and not be lagging, which you're not right now, but we only got a little bit longer to shoot in this video. Actually, I think the last thing I really wanted to kind of talk about was I wanted to talk about us trying to come up with a search area. And I think we're going to be doing a lot more investigating with Patrick and maybe even members of the family, it sounds like. Just try to figure out where we can organize a search. Either it's just us three or we get some more folks involved or whatever that want to search. But we want to try to come up with some kind of a search where we can try to find this plane, because man, it seems like it's begging to be found, and we really want to help the family with some closure on that. So
we want to come up with a search that makes sense too.
Yeah. So, and one thing I want to bring up too is there have been pretty heavy searches done, but what we've kind of come to learn from talking with Patrick, in our brains, we thought when a plane would crash in the woods, which is probably where it's at, if a plane was to crash in the woods, we always thought that it would just shatter in a bunch of pieces and just hit the ground, which it could have. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. But Patrick said a lot of times when small planes like that come in, they'll get snagged in the trees and actually just stay in the tree canopy, almost like a kite getting caught in a tree. So when they're searching back in 1977, 78, 79, 80, the chances are they might have not really been looking in the trees. No one walks through the woods like this. You know what I mean? Everybody's looking like this. Where's the pieces? Where's the wings? Where's the what is it called? The fuselage? What is it called?
Fuselage.
Fuselage. Thank you. Where's the fuselage? They're not necessarily looking up in the tree. So we just want to, this is kind of where I said we were going to ask for your help. We really just want to implore hunters and people out this season, bow season, gun season, muzzle loader season coming up. When you're walking in the woods, every once in a while, look up in the sky or look up towards the trees. I mean, who knows? And it could be anybody, anywhere in the Lower Peninsula, really. Probably even more so if you're north of like Gladwin, but even down in here, whatever, if you're in the woods, look around. And if you think you see something that might look like a plane or some kind of large metal object in the trees, report it, because this thing is somewhere. And if it's not that plane, it could be any plane, really.
Yeah, and even if you see, I mean, it probably didn't. It could have broke up in the air or anything like that with the storm rolling through. Who knows how long they were in the air for? Who knows what happened? But even if you see like a piece of metal or anything like that in the woods that maybe looks like, I mean, don't just like kind of look forward even more. Like go farther. Maybe you might find some more. It might lead you to something there. So just kind of keep an eye out for that too.
And now, if you do end up stumbling upon this crash and it is on the ground, it's probably not a good idea to be picking things up and looking through it and all that. You probably want to just go ahead and report it, because there might be things that an investigator or something can learn from how it went down and things like that. And you probably don't want to be moving things. You don't want to be moving stuff. You kind of wanted it to be laying how it was when you found it. So just keep that in mind. But is there anything else you really want to go over?
Not right this second. We got some more things that I want to cover for the next episode for sure.
Okay.
We got some big things coming up here. I think you've already maybe elaborated on some of it, but we're going to have some meetings with the family. Patrick too, of course, and we're going to just keep on grinding on this case, and we're going to get this thing figured out. So
yeah, absolutely. So I want to leave you guys with just this picture here. Again, this is the information. That's them. That's the plane. I'm going to put a lot of stuff down in the description, a lot of things that are related to this case as far as Facebook pages, articles, things like that. I'm going to try to put as much down as I can. I'm also going to try to advertise this video a little bit on Facebook and things like that to try to get people in Michigan to see it, because I think it's a prime time for people to be able to see it, because it's a prime time for people to be in the woods. So it just makes sense. So again, if you're watching this video and you made it to the end, we really, really appreciate it. It means a lot. It would mean a lot to the family if anybody would everybody keep their eyes open and look for this thing. Any other closing statements? Are you good, man?
no, that's it. Just spread the word. Maybe we can get some kind of big search team going on here or something. If not, that's fine. We're still looking on our own, but let's get this thing found. So,
all right, guys, thanks for watching. Look forward to more videos. We're going to keep rolling on this. So we'll see you later. Thanks a lot, guys.